Hi Tracy, good to see you.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. And you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you. Very
Excellent,
good.
excellent. Yeah. It's a while since we've done a podcast together, and with you as our equestrian expert and happy brain coach and trainer. Yeah, let's dive into what's on your radar, what's on your bubble at the moment. All things in your field. No pun intended. What's happening for you?
One of the things I've been really conscious of recently is a slight change in dynamic, perhaps in the equestrian world, in my part of the equestrian world. And I'm really conscious that we all get into our bubbles, don't we? And we see what we read and we read what we see and so on. And that's kind of where our feed is for our with our colleagues, social media, research we see, etc. Um, and it's been really interesting shift where at one time there was there's always been a fight back against criticism and that sort of sense of othering and gaslighting and all of those other kind of common terms. But it's always been directed kind of to people kind of not in our sphere. And I've seen recently quite a change to um, seeing women more often seeking support from other women in the industry and really calling out the kind of unsupportive behaviour that we all see across any industry and asking women in particular to kind of come on board and support each other and help each other, not certainly push each other down. And it's not about not being criticized because I think that's very unrealistic, but it's the way that criticism happens. And so it's been really interesting and refreshing to see the message getting louder across the industry that actually let's just hold each other up and not tear each other down. And whether that's criticizing a video of riding or um, laughing at a comment that somebody makes in an unkind way, or people who have knowledge saying, don't you know that already? Which just makes people run away and hide, doesn't it? It really stops the the want to the motivation to want to ask those types of questions. And then I see that sort of transferred into work with horses as well. And I read an interesting article the other day about what are you doing, what are we doing that stops our horses trying to communicate with us. And when we constantly say to people or horses, no, you're wrong, don't do it like that, that's not right, etc., it really shuts down the conversation. And then we start to interpret what might look like cooperation. It's actually compliance, which is very different because it's done on our terms, not on the other's terms, the other person, the animal, or whatever it is. And it really just gets me to thinking about my actions in that and what is my behavior contributing to closing down conversations instead of having that curiosity that says, "No, I don't think I agree with you, but tell me more," because we don't have to agree, but it might still be interesting anyway. I don't know if you find that in your coaching world or
Mm.
other worlds that you inhabit.
There's so many things I've just jotted down there that sort of resonate in
Yeah.
sort of spiraling off in different directions. I think to your point about this um, this movement for collaboration, for cooperation, for supporting each other, for wanting the best in each other.
Mm.
It's very much a new age idea around love and unconditional love and compassion and wanting the world to be a better place. But there's some hard science in there as well about how our brains resonate with somebody who has got our best interest at heart. And that immediately ties into something you were saying about, why horses stop communicating with their riders. I think that's what you said.
Or their handlers,
Or the handlers,
or
yeah.
sometimes just stop communicating,
Communicate.
with the world in general.
And I think that has a beautiful parallel with a huge amount of the work that I do. If you look at young people, why do they stop communicating with their parents? Why do they stop communicating with their teachers? And that whole thing around compliance becomes a part of that, which I'll dive back into in a moment. But also, it reminded me just this morning, I made a little note to myself to read an article by Stephen Bartlett. I don't know if you know Stephen Bartlett,
I
Diary of
know
a
the name.
CEO. And I saw a post of his on LinkedIn, and the essence of it was one of his podcasts with or some of his podcasts with neuroscientists who can prove in a functional MRI scanner when brains shut down. Exactly. The moment you're in sync with somebody making a decision, and then there is one person says thought or verbally, I disagree with you. And that then shuts their brain down, and you can see it on the functional MRI.
Mhm.
And so it is no longer capable of exploring the other person's
Yeah,
perspective and reality.
yeah.
And the quick reference that I read was to that quote. I can't remember who it was by. Make you. I can't remember what it is now, but it's something around. Convince you. I think it's Abraham Lincoln. Convince a man that he is your friend, or words to that effect. And of course, in NLP, we talk about the first principle of rapport. When you're in rapport with somebody, what you literally are doing is you're opening both brainscapes up to explore all of those possibilities. But the moment somebody makes that judgment of you're wrong and I'm right, or fear of I might be wrong and you might be right, either of
Yeah.
those, but you're just literally closing down. And we know this in our happy brain work, you're closing down the possibilities for finding a new solution. So
Mm.
so that resonates really, really well. And
Mm.
oh, there's so many places I want to go with that, but one of them was using our Happy Brain 4-box matrix. I was working with a teenager recently who was having some difficulty being motivated to do homework.
Mhm.
And so I just led him through the 4-box matrix. I was interested in, obviously, we teach people to do the calibration of this moment in time. What's your sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system doing? What are your emotional signals moving you away from towards? Get the 4-box and then some mapping. And basically, the activities in each of those 4 boxes, the they he could find examples of activities in each of those 4 boxes, including the one that he was stuck in, which was around homework and schoolwork. And there were lots and lots of patterns that emerged, and I wanted him to discover them for himself. But the pattern, to your point about compliance, is in the 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 three other quadrants, he was self-managing his life.
Mhm.
And he was making decisions for himself. He felt in
Mhm.
control. He was driving it. He was curious. He was interested. He was open. He was, etc., etc. Even in the stress quadrant,
Mhm.
but nonetheless, there were good motivations. But in the quadrant that he was stuck in, the around homework and schoolwork, he was stuck in compliance, and that, of course, we identify these things pretty quickly with our clients, but to have them go, oh, hang on a minute, that's me. And to your point about horses, when they don't have that prefrontal cortex ability to say, oh, hang on a minute, I'm doing this is compliance, and this is my free will. They don't have that. Um,
And it's all about the safety for them, for horses. And if they sense that they are not safe, not just in a physical, I'm about to get eaten safe, but in any other way, then, and that happens often enough, they will stop trying. And we get learned helplessness, just like we do, with people. Um, and while they may not kind of consciously go there, they understand that actually it's better for them just to do it this way. And I think what's coming to mind as you're talking is that, in life and for horses, there has to be some element of compliance.
yeah.
Um, we have to have rules. We have to have, the kind of this is how it is. Um, but otherwise, we'd have anarchy. But I think helping riders, coaches, horses, and it kind of in my world, to be okay with that is really helpful, and not see it as a threat, not see it as something to be fought against all the time, but actually to be comfortable with a level of compliance,
Mm,
and what a balance that is between free will, cooperation,
mm,
all of those sorts of things. Even in British dressage competitions, for each of the movements that you do throughout the test, the dressage test, um, there are descriptors of the movement. So you get a mark, and then the descriptors might include bend or rhythm or some of those sorts of things. And then at the end, there's a kind of a general catch-all bit. And one of the marks in there used to be for submission, and it's changed fairly recently to cooperation.
oh,
And there's quite a lot of debate in the dressage world about, well, it's just submission by another name, really. Um, but it's really interesting that even there they are listening to the feedback from the people who want to do dressage, and the larger world, kind of larger society, um, who look at the equestrian world, and they no longer want to see, or are no longer um, uh, okay about seeing horses being beaten over fences, or yanked through their bridle, or any of those sorts of things, which we should never have been happy with that. But that's kind of taken on a little bit of a life of its own now. And but even there, it turns into a little bit of an us and them, where there's us who say, "Oh no, you should never treat, and you're really bad for treating your horses like that." To them, you're not doing it right. Instead of having that, uh, well, tell me why you think it's necessary to do that. And from my perspective, what about trying it like this instead? And both sides just kind of get defensive and entrenched, even around a really good discussion and motivation about how can we work with horses better. It kind of gets divided into the two sides.
And I know in our FEEC program, the Foundations for Excellence in Equestrian Coaching that you run, I know one of the activities is perceptual positions, isn't it? So,
Mhm.
what taking your consciousness into what must be true for the horse, what must be
Yeah,
true for the rider, what must be true for the coach, what must be true for the, from all, anybody's ability to take those perceptual positions massively improves the quality of life for everybody around them, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And the horse is one of those positions.
And I've seen in my own coaching practice how much it's a better experience for the horse for sure, but it's a better experience for the riders as well, because we all got into horses because we love them and want to be around them and love the smell and all of that sort of stuff. At what point did we move towards actually these are money making machines? These are, they're things that are just going to do what they're told. And how did that happen? Um, but it's great to see that the conversation is now more moving away from that.
Yeah, and I think as our consciousness, as a humanity's consciousness,
Yeah,
however you define it, as that improves, increases, expands, we
yeah,
are able to take these things into consideration. I wanted, I don't really have a specific question for you, but something that tickled my fancy yesterday as I was thinking, oh yeah, meeting with Tracey, I wonder what we'll chat about. An analogy that I was thinking through, and I think speaks to exactly this point, which is I've been taking dance classes, and Lindy Hop, it's called, and my motivation for doing it, it's fun and enjoyable, but my main motivation, truthfully, has been I wanted to test my own somatic calibration of being in close proximity with another human being and being led by them. Because when I tried dance classes previously over the years, my body was quite touch defensive, and it was a bit sort of don't push me around. It was probably the subtext of my subconscious. And I thought, well, okay, let's test my own development. I want to experience this. I'm much more somatically aware. Obviously, it's a huge amount of the work that we do and teach others to do. I want to find out. And so the
yeah,
big test for me would be how could I be led in dance form, which is very complex because you have to be completely sensory present, calibrating the tiniest signals from your partner, the tiniest signals telling you what you're going to do next. So there's no place in your brain to be in the past or the future. It just totally be present, etc., etc. So if we broke it down, those are quite phenomenal skills. And what I've discovered, and I'll relate this to the equestrian field in a moment, but what I discovered was I'm still pretty novice at this, but when I'm with a partner who is nervous, then I just switch off. because I don't want to carry them. I'll do what I do. I stay, my focus is on staying me and grounded. And actually, because we're in class, I know what's going to happen. And I wouldn't pre-dance with them because I just switch off. There's no, it's not happening. Um, when I have a dance partner who's very tense, I have a natural like, ooh, I can feel that. So it kind of puts me a little bit on edge. And then I have to work hard to go, no, this is me. I'm going to stay grounded. I'm going to, but it's not a great experience. And when I'm with a partner who's super kind of controlling, I'm going to push you here and fling you there. And again, I notice some of my old programs coming up, which is, who the F do you think you are? Stop pushing me around. I don't like that. And but that's all part of my calibration of me. But I'm noticing how my body responds to these different types. And also, I've had an experience of dancing with somebody who's completely all over the place, got no rhythm at all. They're God knows where their attention is. They're just, and it again, it's like, okay, I'm out of here. Mentally, I'm out of here. There's no way I can connect with you. But
Mhm.
what I've delighted in is those moments of being with a partner, and it's random because the training we change partners all the time, so it's never anyone. But the moment where you instantly connect,
Mhm.
you know that they know what they're doing,
Mhm.
and the softness in a tiny hand movement or a tiny movement on my back or my shoulder or whatever it is, the dance really becomes beautiful,
Mhm.
flowing. And so I know you're already, because in my mind I was like, I wonder if that's what it's like for a horse. Because the horse is experiencing all these different types of human interactions with a leader, whether that's a rider or some other interaction with them, and they don't have the prefrontal cortex ability to be able to rationalize it, understand it. They'll just have a default, won't they? And I thought, that
Mhm.
maps across, but in my
Really good.
experience, really, really well. Would you agree to that? Does that resonate?
I think it works for the rider as well. And as the rider gets more, do you know what? And the coach, because as the rider, so as the rider gets more in tune with themselves and is able to sense where the horse is at, it's possible to get a much better tune with the horse than a rider that gets on and rides it like a bike, where you just push the pedals and off you go. Most horses will, oh, yeah, okay, I get this. I know what this is about, but you won't get the tune that somebody else might get. For the horse, you can see that um, as soon as, and for many, many, many years of coaching, seeing a horse and rider partnership come into the arena, the rider's still, reliving the journey there, worried that they've left something in the oven, etc., etc., etc. And the horse is going, okay, well, I'm here. Where are you? And we do sometimes have to do a little bit of work with the rider to say, okay, just arrive. You can leave all of that stuff behind. You can pick it up on the way out if you want it, but right here, right now, you've got to be in the present with this horse. And as a coach, it's my job to help facilitate that. And it's my job to notice when one of them is disappearing somewhere, and just kind of facilitate bringing them back on track. So if I'm not present, if I'm not in my flow, which I guess is some of what you're talking about with your dance partners, that if you have somebody who's in flow, it's way easier, even if it's not that good. It's way easier to kind of keep that working together. Um, so yes, absolutely, it maps across. And I always remember when I used to practice equine muscle release therapy regularly when it was a big part of my business. I remember it's the Bowen technique on horses, and you can do it very, very mechanically. So 3 inches down from this landmark on the horse's body, this is where you do the move. You can do it really mechanically, and it still works. It's great. The very best treatment I ever did was a day when, for some reason, I was feeling really, really, really nauseous, and I had to concentrate so hard on not throwing up in the middle of the treatment. That's where my kind of thinking brain was. So I did the rest of the treatment completely and utterly by touch and feel. I can't remember anything about it, can't tell you anything about it, except I managed to make it out of the stable before I threw up. The best treatment I have ever done, because my thoughts were somewhere else, and I really could sink into that feel place. Um, and once I can see a horse and a rider get into that feel place, that's where the magic happens. And it's exactly as you're describing, feeling with somebody who is dancing in that moment with confidence, competence, all of those other things, that it just feels great, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally, totally. There's so much in there, isn't there, about you, you know, trusting your intuition, because it's not just like you say, when your head's focused in one place, but your skill and training and subconscious, everything aligns. But there's more than that, because in that state you are working intuitively, aren't you?
Mhm, mhm.
Being able to get there, I think I would say that your brain is open then to all sorts of other influences from the quantum fields of consciousness, and that in itself is a different discussion. But
Yeah,
it's that's really great. And
yeah.
also that, again, more than a metaphor, all of this is to your earlier point about the I think you were referring to social media, the support for each other, rather than closing people down and judging them and shunning them and humiliating them. It's like, right, raising them up and supporting and collaborating, and particularly with women. And that again is all part of that. We are designed to be together, to work together, that sort of murmuration of the starlings. And when we're in that flow state, it's so productive. Even if you
Mhm,
just looked at it commercially,
mhm,
you're better off when everybody's collaborating. And that's
mhm.
before you break it down into some sort of simple humanitarian principles of compassion and goodwill.
Yes. But
Yeah,
if you're working in an organization where even something as straightforward as your values align, it's just so much easier, isn't it? Because you don't have to be on your guard, you don't have to be defensive, you don't have to be prepared to argue your point.
yeah,
Well, everybody's kind of on the same side. Um, and I think that just makes life better in so many different ways, doesn't it?
yeah, and it's one of my favorite phrases is play the long game, which is it is playing the long game rather than I want a quick win now. I want a quick dopamine fix from being right
Yeah.
or suppress my fear of being wrong or whatever it might be. I'm going to feel a little bit superior here, or oh, I'm really inferior, I'm a victim, or whatever it might be. All those games that people play, they're not conducive to the long game of healthful, more than resilience. Flourishing is always my ambition.
Yeah. I wonder if I've ever mapped for myself and maybe for clients as well, exactly where do my dopamine hits come from? And I know the things that I do that make me feel good. And it's a question I ask a lot in coaching, especially when you're referring to the four box matrix. What is there that makes you move,
Mm.
that can move you into a more helpful state for that particular moment in time? Wouldn't it be interesting to
it reminds me, and I'm trying to, my brain's running back through because I did that exercise, mapping dopamine hits, um, and it was prompted by, I want to say Daniel Arman, Dr. Daniel Arman. Maybe it was him, maybe it wasn't, but I have a feeling it might have been one of his books or podcasts or something which talked about that, and I thought, oh, that's a really interesting exercise. If you just sit down and look at your day,
mm,
and where did you get that from? It's really very, very fascinating,
mm,
and a bit scary, really, because then, if you're very honest, and that self-awareness, know thyself, it's probably, even the fairly enlightened that have
I
many
think it's
blind
the
spots.
Maury's window.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, partly Jari's window, yeah, but just simple blind spots. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, of course, so there's really things I don't know that I don't know, and but if you are prepared to do the work, not for confirmation bias that you're on the right path, but to be prepared to be surprised, then you realize that little interaction with somebody at 7 a.m., where I don't know, people yell at each other for all sorts of reasons. That actually was a dopamine hit. That, and we see that a lot amongst neurodivergent brains. They are more conflict seeking, and then they get a bad rap for that behavior, but actually they're just dopamine deficient, so they found a strategy that gives them the hit.
Yeah.
Conflict is a quick one.
Being open to possibilities, even if, we then make the decision, actually, no, that's not really how I want to do life. I want to do it this way instead, but at least being open to those possibilities that there may be an even better way of thinking, doing, practicing, riding, coaching. Yeah.
Always, and that's what I love about the work that we both do, which is not just helping other people to make better decisions, to understand their thoughts, their feelings, their behaviors, and restructure them, reorganize them, improve them, upgrade them. But we do it for ourselves all the time, and I absolutely love that. That sort of, and I'm pushing into a little bit of an ego moment here. I get so hacked off on social media. I dip in and out of a number of groups, just to kind of get a feel for what's relevant. And that often tells me what I want to focus on educationally if I see a pattern emerging. And that pattern that you spoke to earlier, where people are so busy shooting each other down and gaslighting and judging and all of that, is a big, big pattern. And I found myself this morning on a social media group where they were arguing, they were proposing that somebody from the NLP world wasn't doing hypnosis. And then there was this big argument about who was right and who was wrong. What's NLP? What's hypnosis? And and I could feel everything rising up in me. And I was like, you idiots, you don't understand how the brain works. There's nothing to do with a category here or a label there. This is how does your brain dynamically work with conscious, subconscious, unconscious,
Mhm.
supraconscious data and all the data points. And then there are the data points that are out in the quantum field that we're only just and so on. And I'm like, wow. And then whoa, hang on a minute. I'm just doing that very same thing. Excuse that. I'm just doing that very same thing. But for a moment, I felt that urge that, which was very much an old pattern of mine, to plow in there and say, "Don't you know?" And
Yeah.
it's like, come on. There's, but recognizing that in myself was my self-regulation, which is, ooh, I don't need to do this. I don't need to do this. If I do it, what would the benefit be and to whom? And actually, I'm not going to influence people who've already decided and want to have their right, wrong battles. The bigger win is for me to recognize I don't need to do that. And so I suppose what that illustrates for me is further confirmation of how far I've traveled, how far I've grown, and that I know myself far better than ever before, but not nearly as much as I'm going to be able to do in the future. So it's
Yeah.
good progress.
I see it all as building choice.
Yeah.
All the work through NLP, Happy Brain, and when I see that in my coaching, with my riding coaching work, it's all about giving the rider and as much as possible the horse choices, because they can then make better informed decisions. And yes, even the debate about, am I an instructor, am I a teacher, am I a coach, am I a facilitator? I mean, they've all got different meanings, or kind of on a spectrum, haven't they? And sometimes I have to be a teacher, sometimes I have to be a trainer, but sometimes I can be a coach and a facilitator. And I think that's one of the things that I think the FEEC program really offers coaches, is that broadening of their understanding and ability and skill level of being able to move along that spectrum, and be able to choose when they need to be a teacher and when they need to be a coach, and being able to take those perceptual positions and not just logically understand in that prefrontal cortex, but actually be able to pick up on all of that other information that's coming in as well. And there's so much of it.
Mm.
Um, and that takes a lot of skill to be able to manage that. And in the beginning, it is very much about, okay, well, all my riders are still on their ponies. We're going to start working on some circles now. Fantastic. Everybody gets to the end and they're all still on and they're all smiling and they're all patting the ponies. Awesome. All we need to do. Because you have to grow that skill, you have to grow that understanding of being able to manage that space, whether you're talking about yourself, the rider, the spectator, the horses, and so on. And that's a big task to be able to do that.
Yeah, if and having the awareness of all of those bits of
Mhm.
information.
And knowing what to do with them, even when your own systems may be saying, oh, hang on a second, this isn't quite under the control I'd like it to be under. Being able to very quickly manage that, to then be able to step in and help to manage the rest of the environment. That takes some doing. It really does take some doing. And I've seen people who've come back after the FEEC program and have said, I've just got so much more to take into the arena now, feel so much more confident. Just knowing that I can recognize that and knowing what to do with it is a really big win for the program. So that's been
When are
really
you running the next one?
November. We've got some dates in November.
Okay.
It's a great thing to do, I think, when spring, summer, people are out and about doing stuff. That's when business is really booming for coaches, because everybody wants to ride ponies when it's nice weather. November, not so much. So having something indoor to skill build over the winter months, because ready for the next spring and summer. Good time of year to do it.
Awesome, awesome. I'll put the dates and information for anybody who's interested in the whatever we do attached to this. Well, I see obviously I sign the certificates, but I see the testimonials coming through, and it's a really great program and very inspirational from a Happy Brain core point of view, because based on the template of what you've done with your specialism, we've now got other Happy Brain coaches building programs in using the same template in their specialisms, and got some really cool things coming on board, which I'm excited about, and we'll talk about another time. So that's super great. There's so many other areas that we could dive into, and perhaps we'll do that again very soon. Be really great. It's good to see you, and thank you for all you do, not only with Happy Brain and all of the stuff that we overlap in, and obviously in the equestrian world, but just being a thoroughly decent human being. We need more good human beings in the world, and I'm standing by that. So
we'll do it together.
We'll do it together. Yeah. None of us are as smart as all of us, they say.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, well, good to see you.
Great. Thank you very much, Tracey. Take care.
Take care. Bye.